Hello, welcome to Soulprint Intuitive Tarot for September 18th. Welcome. Thank you for being here. I thought I would do I'm going to try to do a couple of sort of shorter readings on a couple of different topics. So the first one I want to take a look at is Bill Barr and the Justice Department, because he is out there just tearing his own people apart. It's absolutely unbelievable, to see what he's doing. And, I guess not unbelievable to see the Republicans of the world just, going along. So I want to take a look at what's going on in the Justice Department, maybe what we can anticipate from Bill Barr. Maybe some insight into, what that looks like unfolding. So come on down, because that's my first question. Here we go. Okay, so a couple just quick shuffles. All right. U.S. Justice Department Bar. U.S. Justice Department Bar. U.S. Justice Department Bar. Okay. Put this on back a little bit. All right. So what we have here is the people who work at the Justice Department, not the Bill Barrs, but, the people who actually do the real work. They have been in such a precarious position for quite a while now, because they feel like they're literally trying to juggle and balance like smoke. Like they can't grasp it. Everything's spiraling out of control. Roles have just been flipped and reversed, and the people you're supposed to be able to count on and depend on, like your attorney general, he's fighting a different war, if that kind of makes sense. So the Justice Department is trying to do what the Justice Department does, in terms of the investigations they do, the intelligence, whatever it is, the career people are trying their level best to get the information compiled and the investigations done, whatever it is. And, you've got Bill Barr sort of in that position of authority. And he really, it's like he's perfectly okay being in this kind of crazy battle. And, this is the thing, about Bill Barr, right? I mean, he really has made kind of a deal with the devil, right? He is in partnership with Trump. And it's a crazy thing, because, everybody thinks that Trump corrupted Bill Barr. But the reality is that they honestly corrupted each other, because these ideas that Bill Barr has about the president having these incredible, enormous powers are what Bill Barr has always thought. It just happens that Bill Barr is doing what he can do to sort of create these situations where the president has more and more power, and you have a president who is power hungry and greedy. So they came together and made quite the little partnership or relationship or team. And there is an awareness that at some point this is going to lead to disappointment, and people are going to have to walk away. But for right now, it is a situation of let's push those boundaries as hard and as fast as we can, and and see what we can get accomplished. And so if we're looking for Bill Barr to have a, come to Jesus moment, it's not going to happen, because he, in his own way, is just as entrenched, just as dug in with what he believes and what he sees going on. He made a statement, I guess it was on Wednesday, when he was doing that sort of speech. I don't know where he was, but he said some really incredibly stupid things. But one of the things that he said basically is, the Justice Department is basically mine and mine alone to run. That doesn't sound like an attorney general as far as I can figure out. That sounds more like, a bit of a dictator's puppet. So they understand, I think, to the best of, reasonable ability, that they really can. They're in this partnership, but I think they also understand that it's very likely that they're going to take a fall. Sorry about that. Okay, so that's kind of what you're going to see going on there. You know what? They're in for the fight. They're in for the status. They're going to take whatever they can get away with taking over the next couple of months, because even after the election, of course, Bill Barr will still be the U.S. Attorney General until Biden is sworn in, and if he chooses to replace him, and of course he's going to replace him. But again, it's just an indicator of how incredibly far the country has fallen, because FBI directors, if I'm not wrong, were sort of put into that position, and they were there for about 10 years. So they actually served under 2 or even, I guess, 3 in some strange case, different administrations. So yeah, that's where that is. So he's going to have, some time on his hands yet to continue to sort of wreak some havoc. Okay, so yeah, so you've got one of the trump cards here. You've got the 8 of Swords, talking about, that feeling of being restricted, kind of, what they're trying to do is, in some ways, this figure right now honestly represents Lady Justice to me. So she may be blind, but she's also been tied up and twisted up. So she actually is under siege. Like, she truly is. She is under attack. And that really does come from Trump and Bill Barr and a few others who just are working very, very hard to make sure that the president ends up with absolute maximum power. So this is proving to be a very busy house today. Okay, so that was kind of Bill Barr and the Justice Department. The fall is going to come for Bill Barr, but it's certainly not going to come from him or come for him as long as Trump is sitting in the Oval Office. And I believe that at that point, Barr is not even he's going to resign. And frankly, somebody else is going to need to go in there and kind of clean up the mess he made. Okay, I want to take a look at ICE and what's going on there. You've got, what is that, Homeland Security? HHS? I'm not sure. So we're just going to take a quick look at, I'm particularly, of course, really concerned about the treatments that people are receiving while they're in detention in those cages. More importantly, kind of what's going on with these poor women who went to see the doctors for a variety of, I think, probably not serious issues with their reproductive system. And we've got, I think they're saying like 18 at this point, who ended up with either full or partial hysterectomies. This is horrendous. This is horrendous. So I just want to see sort of what the future of ice is going to look like. Okay, so what can we anticipate with that particular branch of government? So ice going forward, ice going forward, ice going forward. Okay. There's a lot of secrets. There is so much stuff that we are going to find out once there can be some sort of investigations into exactly what went on there and who was in charge and who was, pulling the strings. Part of, I guess, sort of part of what, I don't know, you have to understand or realize is that a lot of the attitudes about what those detention centers should be run like and what kind of people were in those detention centers. They came from Stephen Miller. And all he really had to do was just basically say, they're not like us. And that really probably was all Trump needed to say, go ahead and do whatever you want with them. So you have to sort of really appreciate that in some ways, even the people who are working there and kind of following out some of these orders or these standards, really, I'm not going to say they weren't to blame or they aren't to blame, because ultimately everybody has free choice. But that doesn't mean that a great many of them really felt they really didn't have a lot of options or choices. These sort of ridiculous, frankly, rules were getting put into place and implemented, and it didn't make a lot of sense. But the people who were in charge really held that the underlings in a really firm grip, and they really didn't feel like they actually had a lot of wiggle room. And frankly, they've seen the whole situation go from bad to unbelievably worse. So as you have a new administration coming in, there are going to be some really, you can look forward, that's the word, to a couple of rather long and intense investigations about what went on there and how that looks. I mean, one of the things that I guess the Republicans or Trump doesn't care about is some little phrase called, class action lawsuits. I don't know, but it seems to me that the United States could really be on the hook for thousands of people who were trying to seek safety, who ended up being so abused and so badly treated that, to some degree, somewhere down the line, the U.S. government's going to have to figure out how to compensate for that. And so I think getting a very clear investigation of what was going on, what it looked like, who had power, that's going to be really, really important. So anticipate that that's going to be coming down the line fairly quickly. But absolutely, you can look for almost a complete restructuring of ICE, or how it functions, or what it does, or its priorities. There's going to be some real serious discussions that go on about what this is supposed to look like, and more importantly, how we safeguard it against, heaven forbid, another Trump. So look for significant changes at ICE. That which they've done well, they're going to be able to maybe get that expanded, but where they have caused harm, There is going to be a lot of restructuring. I just keep getting that word over and over again, because they're so responsible for so much pain and suffering and heartbreak. And again, karma is karma. You don't escape. Okay? And now I want to take a quick little look at the United States Postal Service and Louis DeJoy and what's going on there. He's coming under more and more scrutiny, and I'm not so sure that he has any answers that are going to be helpful to him. And I think in some ways he is starting to realize that he may think he's pretty savvy and clever and all of that, but he, despite his sort of position within the administration, he's going up against some people who really are like wanting answers, and frankly, who he is kind of obligated to give those answers to. And so let's see what the post office situation looks like 6 weeks out from an election. Early voting, I believe, has started or will be starting very quickly, depending, I guess, on where you live. And I know lots and lots of people are doing everything they can. They're voting early. They're getting that stuff returned. But let's just see if we can take a bit of a look at the post office and see what's going on, either with it or with DeJoy. So let's just check this out. So U.S. Postal Service, U.S. Postal Service, U.S. Postal Service. You know, this is the thing. When you're a glutton for power, for position, for status and control, you really you end up sort of so hyper focused on what it is you're trying to achieve or what your goal is or what you want, that there was not enough attention paid to how sort of beloved that the U.S. Postal Service was. It is sort of in some ways just considered part of the backbone of what makes the United States the United States. It has a very, very long history. And it has always been run as a service until lately when, Trump got into office and everything has to be transactional. So it's sort of like they took on a bigger bear than they realized. I think in some way, they really didn't think that there was going to be this kind of pushback. And make no mistake, Trump and DeJoy are calculating this stuff together. Or there's a few other people rolling around the fringes. But Trump is exactly aware of what's going on. He has been trying to get rid of the post office or restructure the post office since almost as soon as he stepped into office. He's quiet about it, but there is this thread that runs through his time as president. So this is not a whim only about the election. This is something that he is just trying to break down. And he's not likely to be at all successful to the degree that was his expectation or his anticipation. But that doesn't mean that there's not going to be, frankly, damage done and things that are going to need to be replaced. So again, here's my trump card again, and you have the full illumination of the sun. So again, you're going to find, there's going to be, I want to say, some interference. There is not going to be anywhere near the interference that people seem to be frightened about or worried about. We're going to see over the next several weeks is a lot of court decisions coming down saying, no, you can't do that. And DeJoy is going to continue to be under investigation and hauled up in front of committees and basically told to explain himself. And so you're going to be hearing a lot more about the United States Postal Service in the coming weeks. You're going to see state attorney generals going after DeJoy and demanding explanations. And so you can continue to expect a little bit more, kind of fire and fury, if you will, around that topic. But Trump is not going to win this to the degree that he thinks it's going to work to his advantage. It's really not. It really does feel like in some ways the government, while still very much sort of at risk, and I'm talking about, intelligence agencies, security agencies, say whatever all those little, names are you guys have up there. But it feels very much like those that are tasked with doing something and trying to keep the election process safe, they have been working behind the scenes. And it is not that the country as a whole is not invulnerable. It's not made of concrete. There's going to be some issues, but it just doesn't feel like they're going to be as horrible and as extreme as people fear. And again, we get right back to that whole whatever it is you focus on, you play a role in creating. So if the focus is on, the Postal Service has been completely corrupted, it's going to continue to roll that way. Okay, yeah, and here's my other trump card, and what you're seeing is this sort of full-on push forward, and they really didn't think about it because the people that, not only Trump, but the people he surrounds himself with really don't have any political savvy. What they have, if anything, is sort of like, I don't know, criminal business practices maybe. So they just rush in. They really do. And then they spend a whole bunch of time trying to clean up the mess they made. So again, let's be aware of the fact that there is some attacking going on of the post office. DeJoy is going to have a very difficult next 4 to 6 weeks, and it's more protected than you maybe realize, but it is not, encased in steel. So again, you're going to do what you're going to do, and you need to do to keep your vote counting and get it where it needs to go for the election, because, all you guys have made a plan, right? You've made a plan to vote. And how really incredibly sad is it that the United States has sort of been brought to its knees by one person, one presidency. And so we looked at William Barr. We looked at the Postal Service. We've looked at ICE. So let's just do a bit of a quick scan on what we can anticipate. I've done a longer reading on this, but we're going to just do a quick check-in on, let's take a look at what's going on in the United States between the election and the inauguration. Now this is going to be quick, so we're not going to go into a lot of detail here. That, of course, will be a topic that I will be reading on, again, going forward, right? As the energies shift and change, you can sometimes get more additional information or more clarity. So, November through December, election through inauguration, election through inauguration, election through inauguration. Wow, that's kind of cool. Okay, so the first thing that I want to tell you or share with you is the fact that I believe that the election results are going to be sort of announced, determined, kind of faster, I think, than people are expecting. There's a lot of talk about this could take a week or two. I am not seeing a real delay getting the results in and tabulated. When I look at the sort of the country of the United States, and I ask to see kind of what those results are going to be ultimately, there really is the entire East Coast seaboard, not 100%, but it is blue, okay? There's a little bit of other, but that whole seaboard really, really does look blue. There are sections of the Gulf Coast that are going to be surprisingly blue. There are sections of the West Coast that are blue already. So if that eastern seaboard very quickly kind of goes blue, and I'm kind of seeing that now, I don't know what that means. Does it mean that night? Well, probably not. But I think 24, 48 hours, you may have some very clear indicators of exactly how, what the results are going to be like. And I know there is a lot of talk and concern about, Trump, pushing back and getting everything tied up in the courts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's not going to work for him. I don't know why this fella has not figured out that, honestly, in the grand scheme of things, the courts are not his friend. The courts may allow him to kick the can down the road, but when it actually comes to the decisions they make, they're not his buddy. So I don't know why he thinks that if he is contesting an election that clearly has been won, why he thinks the courts would stand up for that. And let's not forget, at that point, he is a lame duck president now, okay? And so he just does not have the power that he did prior to the election results being known. So there's that. Now, I am not suggesting that there isn't going to be some areas where there's going to be questions or concerns. I am not suggesting that this is going to be some utopian transfer of power. It is not. I don't see and haven't seen Trump actually at the White House on Inauguration Day. As of right now, I'm just not seeing it. Pence is sort of going to be the one who is there, and the only question is going to be whether or not Trump actually resigns the presidency early enough to put Pence into the position of president for a few weeks or whatever it is, or whether he just chooses to not go to the inauguration and but basically stays in the presidency until it switches over. There's been a lot of talk about rioting in the streets and a lot of trouble going forward and stuff. Again, I'm not saying there isn't going to be some. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. But frankly, there's already rioting in the streets. There's already people getting shot in the streets about two different sides or two different philosophies or two different ideas, belief structures. So a lot of the crazy that everybody fears, honestly, is happening around you already in different ways. I just don't see it getting really, really out of hand. I'm not saying it's going to be a cakewalk, but I also don't see sort of rioting in the streets. I actually really think that when the election results come through, the crush, the defeat is going to be significant enough that Trump just quietly sort of wants to go away. I don't think he is going to be able to have a whole lot to fight back about or with. So there we have it. All right, so happy Friday. Here comes the weekend. Let's take some time. Let's decompress. Let's enjoy some downtime. And I will see you again on Monday. Thank you ever so much for your support. And until next time, take care and be well. We'll see you really soon. Bye-bye.